How's it going? This is your co-host, Durban, with Synonyms of Sound.
And your other co-host, Tony, and I'd like to introduce Brent Sands. How's it going, Brent? Doing great, we're doing great. So I know right now the big agenda for you right now is kicking off your Impound movie. But before getting to what you're currently trying to get accomplished in Kickstarter, I want to get the pre-movie idea. Like, how did the whole comic idea come to life? Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Impound was written as a movie, originally. So it was never meant to be a comic book. So basically, it's like I'm revisiting the original goal. The reason on why I decided to make it a comic book was when I watched Black Panther. I thought about how long that was a comic book before it actually became a movie. That's what kind of gave me the idea of like, all right, maybe let's take steps back to move forward. Because getting a movie script picked up in today's world is very unrealistic. If it's not already something known or something established or you know the right person. So it became a comic book to get to the original goal. And then in the midst of that, other opportunities for other characters started showing up. And then this movie became a comic book company. So originally, that's why sometimes people ask, why is the universe also named after the character? And it's because it was only supposed to be about him. So the other characters came after that idea. So that's why.
Got it. Okay. So were you always a creative from a child? Like how did the passion or decide that I want to write a movie script come to be? Like, give us a little backstory of you as a child.
It was like I was just doing it, I always had the idea in my mind, like if it got picked up, that'd be cool. But I was really just doing it because I just wanted to, So, I wasn't writing comic books until I made Impound one. I only wrote movie scripts or full novels. So I wrote two 400-page novels, and I've probably written 12 movie scripts at this point. And then just not knowing what the next step was after it was written. I just kept writing stuff and shelving it, and I didn't care because I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it because I had an idea. And then I realized once you write a movie script, you have to storyboard it before you shoot it. And that's all a comic book is a storyboard. You know what I mean? So it was a very simple transition. I just had to do a little bit of research and just did it. I was always into the comic world. I was always into the games, the movies, the characters. But I wasn't a heavy comic book reader. I was more of a novel reader.
Okay.
And I guess how is the storefront been going overall? Like, I guess how is the city taken to it? Just the neighborhood, like the community overall. Have you felt like the support that you wanted? Like, how's it been going?
The city of Sacramento at this point is 100% behind this vision. From the public, from the people to the upper echelon, where we're talking about the big mainstream actors in Sacramento. It's like to a point that Impound Comics, at least from the look of the community, is right under the Sacramento Kings, where these are now. It's like Impound is now like a face of the city. There's still a lot of promoting. There's still a lot of people in Sacramento who don't know what this is still. So There's still a lot of groundwork. But as soon as a person hears what we are, finds out what we are, they're all the way in. So I can't complain at all with the response from the public. The storefront has made us way more profitable than we would have been without it. And it's also got us more organized. It's also, made things possible. It gave us a challenge that we had to step up to. We have action figures now. We have more books than I probably would have had published by now. Way more merch, and it's like we had to do this because we basically got an opportunity of a lifetime that we couldn't pass up. You know what I mean? So it's been a blessing. It's been beautiful.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. And I know you mentioned that you wrote about 12 different movies.
Mm-hmm.
So why land on Impound? Or were they all very similar? Like what type of genre of writing would you say that you pull yourself towards? But why Impound?
Um, I would say like they're not the same genre. I really will a lot of times watch something and be inspired to do something in that light. I would say Impound was probably everything is inspired by something, but I think Impound was my most original idea in the sense of um, I didn't just take it from somewhere else, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I wrote a book. My first book was called Fallen Angel, and this is when I was really much younger, and a lot of it was inspired by the idea of Blade. So it's kind of like a black, demonic, heroic character. But when I sat back and read it, I feel like I read Blade. You know what I mean? So that
Mm.
kind of discouraged me. I
Hmm.
wrote another thing that was like, I was super inspired by Game of Thrones. I wrote like this world war kind of idea of multiple
Yes.
kings all trying to be in charge. And when I backed up, I read Game of Thrones, and I just was like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
I have another. Some of them were comedies. There were times where I was super into hip hop, so I wrote the rapper coming up in the modern world, and I just get inspired and write. That's all it really is.
Yeah.
Um, Impound, like I said when I watched Black Panther, Impound was the closest thing I had ready to be a comic book. So that's why I ended up going that way with him. Um, but it wasn't. It was like I said, nothing was planned. I was just kind of going with the flow, and then when it was released, it was so well received. I had to just continue. You know, I didn't realize it at the time, but we launched in the pandemic, and nothing. There was no better time to launch a new business that was on the internet than the pandemic because the engagement was so high that we were just posting artwork and it was going viral because so many people are on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So that was a huge boost as well.
Yeah, I found you from Instagram. Like,
Yeah,
I was on Instagram. I saw some of your artwork. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Did some more research. I saw there was a bunch of more really cool and interesting characters that were all black, which I think is super important because I feel there's not a lot of representation in the comic industry from both writers
yeah.
and in characters. So, as you were developing Impound, did that kind of like was that a part of your thought process? Like, hey, I need to have more representation. I want to be that voice and create someone that everyone can kind of like be drawn into.
No, I would say as a black man, I just wanted a hero that looked like me, which is the same
Hmm.
thing in a way. But I wouldn't say I was so conscious of the fact that like trying to be a martyr. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it was more of just the love of writing, and I was doing that at the same time. And I think it took the public's reaction for me to become more conscious of, more, like I would say for me, something that's very different. My parents growing up didn't let me not see black heroes. So I don't know if I was as conscious of that as I should have been, or maybe as conscious of as other people have been. Like when I think back, the first superhero I remember was Batman. You know what I mean? Batman '90s. The second hero I seen was Spawn. And it's not because of
Wow.
it's not
Me
because
too.
Wow.
and it's not because of the public. It was really my parents. You know what I mean? They are going out their way to put black heroes in front of me. You know what I mean? So I can't say I had the same experiences as a lot of African American people. Thankfully, to my parents making sure they pounded that in my head. Because then after that, man, the third hero, Meteor Man. You know what I mean? Then another Batman movie, then Blade, and Halle Berry is Storm. Look, Halle Berry's playing Storm. And so I had a lot of good experiences in my childhood seeing black heroes. So it took the step back to more. Not only am I realizing there isn't as many black heroes as I was seeing, most of these black heroes weren't even made by African American people. So
Hmm.
thankful that they did make them. Cool. I love these characters, but we needed more. From my point of view, not necessarily the black characters. We needed the more black creators to
Yeah.
make it authentic. And so that is something I've been definitely pushing. Is like in high school, I was on a basketball team and I watched Star Wars. These were two completely different groups of friends that I would have these conversations with,
Two
though.
different universe. Two
Two
different
different,
universe.
yeah.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, I wasn't conscious of it for a long time because I was in both worlds. You know what I mean? That was normal. My dad was in both worlds. You know, my dad played college basketball, but showed me Star Wars. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So then I get older and I realize my friends don't like Marvel. And I'm like, what's wrong with y'all? You know what I mean? And like I said, what made me more conscious is when we started dropping more books, when we got our storefront. Black people are coming in saying, this is the first comic book story I've ever tried to follow because you're doing it. And I'm like, what? I'm like, really? Like you weren't in? And they're like, man, never. Everybody's coming in saying, hey, I want to buy a magazine. I'm like, we don't sell magazines. And now it's like that oblivious of this world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So my being a creative, dealing with the black public made me more conscious of how much we need this. You know, it's not just
Yeah.
me as an author writing stories anymore. It's becoming the martyr that I wasn't conscious of. You know what I'm saying? So originally, no. You know, and that's the long story to why. You know, but now it's a mission. It's part of the journey. You know what I mean?
Got
So
it.
I'm blessed for it. You know.
What would you say has been, I guess, the biggest obstacle so far, like with your growth?
Um, budget. Budget would be the biggest obstacle. I haven't felt too much backlash from public or you know manufacturing or anything. I think a lot of it is I'm very patient. I do it the way I think it should be done. I don't want to rush anything or do it wrong.
Hmm.
But you know, you need a certain amount of money to start and continue. So that's the biggest object. But like other than that, man, you know, it's been a beautiful journey. You know, um, not too much hard. The other biggest object is just getting up every day to do it. But when you love what you're doing, you do it. You know, so but that would be probably it thus far in the journey.
Hmm.
Amen. And what got you into writing? Like, was your parents writers, or was this something
Not
that you
me.
naturally gravitated to?
Yeah, it was just all natural, bro. It was just something that I just felt like doing and did it. Literally, you know, the first, like I said, I watched the Blade movie and I wanted something like Blade, and I just started writing. You know, I'm planning. This is when I'm like 16 at this time. Wrote a
Hmm.
400-page novel. No previous experience. I didn't talk to anybody about doing it. I just fleshed out the story. That's not true. So I did talk to someone about it. And it was I was at a it was I took sign language and I was at an event literally catering to signing with people who are actually deaf. And it was like and the person who organized it, their grandfather was a writer. And I was telling him how I wanted to write a book, but I don't understand the real writing styles. And then he kind of said, you know, that's how you make a new writing style is by doing it the way you want to write it. He's like, don't look at other people's way of writing and get influenced by it. You can just do it how you would like to read it, and it's a create a new style. And that's why I did that first book. I was just like, all right, let's just dive in and let's just get it.
Hmm.
We'll figure out the grammar and all that later. But let's just flush the story out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just taking the initiative and jumping right in. But that's also great advice, not being too concerned or caught up with what other people have done and just
That was
kind of trusting
amazing
your gut.
advice. Yeah, and I live by it. You know, I didn't read other comic books before I wrote Impound. I just wrote it the way I would want to read it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then there's just people like you. You know what I mean? People open to new writing styles and people who like to read it the way you would like to read it. And you just find those people. You know.
Yeah, it's true. So, how did the other characters come to be? Like, your mission was to get Impound as a movie, but then you decided to build other little mini universes within the Impound universe. So, what sparked that idea? Was it to get more traction and attention, or was it that you were having a lot of fun and you had a lot more ideas that you wanted to explore?
It was both. So it was both of the things you said on top of the fact that like addressing what the public demands. So the second book I wrote was Seraph, and before I wrote the book Seraph, the character was he's in Impound One. He didn't really have a name. He didn't really have an origin or identity. He was just like a lynchman. And then people started asking about him specifically. But then I felt like I was forced to give him an origin. So that's how he became with his own series. And then just seeing opportunities for other characters or explanations for characters' powers, like the backgrounds of things. And I just seen opportunities and filled them. And then last but not least was being able to put out more content where, the guy who draws Impound, it takes him 4 or 5 months in between to do a book. That's a lot of time to be sitting stagnant that I didn't want to sit stagnant on. So I would find another illustrator to do another book. And just, it was, like I said, a mix of all of those things.
Cool, man.
It's the artwork is dope. I like it a lot. And
It was very important to me. One thing that I was telling myself, I wouldn't do it unless I can have it look exactly like how I wanted to look the first time. I wasn't going to go through the process of amateur looking art to cool art. I needed it to look like Marvel's competition the first time I put it out. So that was my way of thinking. And like I said, it wasn't about money. It was a passion project and I needed it to be right. So that was very important to me.
I feel like as I look at your website, I feel that you come from an entrepreneurial background, not a writer. I think of you as a business person because I see NFTs, I see a store, I see you're building a universe to get attention. So where does this business mind come from that's also like a very passionate writer?
So I've always started businesses. I've been probably an entrepreneur. I've had regular jobs too, but I've always went back to some sort of entrepreneurial ideas. And when I was in college, I started throwing parties. And then that led me to being a club promoter. I became a concert promoter, and I was very successful in that. And then that transitioned to me into the music industry, where I did music management, A&R work, worked with record labels, and working in the independent the independent music industry. I took that same platform and applied it to this, where I look at Pound as an independent artist. His Instagram and the artwork, or his photo shoots, his albums, or books, and the promotional techniques that I learned through all of that is what made this happen so fast. So that's what's been my advantage on other creators is you can be as creative, but if nobody sees it, it doesn't matter. And so I just had the advantage of being a promoter, and that made life easier.
Got it.
Most comic creators, at least that I meet, are more introverted, and I'm not an introverted person, so that was a step.
Okay, awesome. And as you think about your characters, what was the driving force behind the creation of them? Like, what's the message that you want people to get after watching your movie or reading the comics? Is there any hidden message that you're trying to portray to your audience that may go over their head or they may not get? Within
the characters, I definitely try to break stereotypes with characters. I definitely try to do something a little bit different. Like Impound himself, I think a thing right now too, also for Black creators, is sometimes pushing his character is Black and his Blackness. And that's important, but I want to push that Black people are people too. We go through regular struggles. We go through everyday problems and problem solving just like everyone else. So I do want to normalize that as well, on top of breaking stereotypes of what a brown or Black person would normally do, where they come from, it's just different walks of life that I want to show. One thing that I look at is I have a character, my detective's Muslim, and I kind of was thinking of my brother is Muslim, my nieces are Muslim. I'm not, but they are. So I have a certain level of respect that I'm going to always have for that because that's my family. And so breaking that stereotype that Muslim relates to evil or badness in America. My detective, who is a hero, is Muslim. You know what I mean? I think that could be perceived as backwards in a stereotypical American light. You know what I mean? So stuff
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? My character
Shattering
Sarah.
stigmas.
Yeah, exactly. You know, my character Sarah. This was for a different step. He's from the Philippines. In Sacramento, we have a massive Filipino population. They have zero representation almost in this world. So I did that, you know, because my illustrator is also from the Philippines. I wanted him to have a relationship with a character the way I have with Impound. Um, I also name characters off of family members, close friends, scenarios off of things I've seen. That makes it more real. I lost Tony.
No, I'm still here. I'm gonna come back. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Have
So
you
I think normalizing different likes of people would be what I'm trying to do.
have you ever put I guess have you ever tied in a personal experience that you've had into your story and maybe someone noticed, like someone
Yeah.
realized and like like yo like this happened
Yeah.
between us and it was in there.
Man, bro, I got a crazy story. So this one is like almost made me look like a weirdo. And it was like my ex had long ago told me, and I'm not conscious. I wasn't thinking of it when I did it, but my ex told me a long time ago if she had a daughter, she'd want to name her Lily. And then a decade later, I named Impound's daughter Lily. and then after the book comes out, I guess she read it. I hadn't talked to her in a long time. And then I'm not conscious of it until I see on social media she's about to have a baby. And then she's posted she's going to have a daughter. And I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if she's going to name her Lily.
You stole the name before she could use it. That's bad funny.
When I did it. But now it's like now it's coming to life. And then I don't ask. She names her daughter, names her not Lily. She names her something else, and I just don't think anything of it. And then she comes to my store, and she's like, "So I saw Impound's daughter. Her name is Lily, huh?" She's like, "I purposely didn't name my daughter Lily because you blew it."
Oh man, that is bad funny.
I was never gonna ask you, but I was wondering if that was the reason.
Oh man, that's a good story.
Have you read the Impound book?
No, I haven't read through the full thing, but I've looked through the pages.
Spoiler, but then, but the spoiler of that made it even like weirder. You know what I mean? So that was like, dang, I was like, I swear I wasn't thinking like that. I was like, I've written other movie scripts and I've used that name for different characters, and I just got coming up with character names is very, very hard. You know, that for me in writing is the hardest part. So after a while, I recycle. If I know I'm not going to use a project or something I wrote, I take names and put it in the next project. So I've used the name Lily like 5 different occasions as different characters, and that's just what I did for this particular character. I wasn't registering it at that point. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I was like, man, my bad. You know what I mean? I was like, look, at the end of the day, it's your fault. If you would have just stayed with me, Lily would have been awesome.
So I want to, I like that you talked about what's challenging about writing is like sometimes coming up with character names. I would think what might be challenging is creating the universe that they encapsulate or their powers. Is that challenging, or like how do you go about your creative process of that stuff?
I mean, the powers. I mean, it's so recycled that it's kind of like, just it's almost like pick something cool that makes sense with this character, because you're not going to really think of a power that's original. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be dozens of characters who have that power set. So I more just do the power based off the vibe of the character. Or I do like originally it was the power that I thought were the coolest, but then once you use that, You just got to keep throwing powers out there. You know what I mean? So I just based that off of when I look at the character, what should this character's powers be? Yeah, but the name is hard, man. The name is, for me, by far the hardest because it's just, I want to Google the name and not see anything like that. You know what I mean? And that's especially in the comic world, like they're all taken. All the cool, hard words, you know what I mean, for the most part are taken. So, sucks. That's what sucks.
Yeah, we get where you're coming from, because when my partner and I were trying to create Synonyms of sound, he was doing a lot of Googling of different things to see what's out there. And he was using synonyms of different words. I was like, bro, why don't we just use synonyms of something? And it just naturally came up. But yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, man. For real, for real.
Super hard. Especially when you keep adding on to it.
Yeah, I'd get so tight working on something and someone named it that, or I totally feel that completely.
Yeah, it's not even just the character name, man. The names of the armor, the names of the weapons, the names of everything. You know, it's hard. You know.
Yeah.
So I love I love that you're also into NFTs. I think it's really smart, and they're really dope. Do you plan on maybe expanding on the blockchain experiences with Impound, or?
So for me with the NFTs, I just think it was something we needed to do. It's not something I've been focused on so much because it didn't hit as hard as I wanted it to out the gate. And at the end of the day, I need to focus on writing. So I was like, I would love for someone who is more into that to kind of guide that experience and then make it simpler. But I kind of just set them there, you know, and as we grow, people become more interested in it. I didn't want to not have that as an available avenue. But it's not something I'm focused on. It's just something that we also do. And you know what I mean? It would have to start.
You saw the potential, so you wanted to get it done.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If we would have launched and it was going viral, I would have put more energy into it. But it is a lot more challenging than I anticipated. But I needed to have it as an available option. Absolutely. You know, I want to explore more, but it's not time.
Mm-hmm. You've got a lot of one-on-ones, and me as someone into the space, I might have stumbled on something early, and I'm gonna need to grab some of these. Hold on to them.
Well, that's why I put on the one that was like, all right, I got to make this one pricier. Was the first illustration of Impound. You know what I mean? Like to have that original file, the first one, I was like, yeah, that was gonna go for some bread someday.
I agree with you. So I know you mentioned when you were writing Impound, you weren't really thinking comic book. You were thinking movie. You didn't really read a lot of comic books in the past. Has that changed now that you are in the comic game? Are you more an avid reader of comics or mangas by chance?
No, unless you're an indie. So I read a lot of my peers' books now.
Like who? If you don't mind me asking.
Like who? I'm really close friends with Concrete Comics, Godhood Comics, Stranger Comics is a good one. I haven't really spoke to him much, but I'm a fan of his work. Definitely the entities who we added on to our universe. We're going to be relaunching it, but it's a different creator, and I was already cool with him before. But mostly those kind of people. I haven't gotten into mainstream, no.
Okay. Is there anyone in the mainstream that you would love to partner with if you had a chance?
I mean, I'm down to work with anyone. You know what I mean? Now, in a sense of partnering, it would have to just make sense for me. What I wouldn't be willing to do is, let's say DC wanted to bring us on. It would have to be at a point that we are moving so fast that they're going to at least give us attention. I wouldn't do it just to say that I did it, So, and I don't look at that as realistic right now. I look at it like, they've been promoting the same characters for 100 years. Why would they take their foot off the gas for us? but I'm open to it. And I would love to be able to work with, a lot of, like everyone, you know what I mean? But I'm not like pressing for it. You know what I mean? I think
Okay.
it'll come when it's time, and whoever really shows the most love and attention into what we're doing is probably who I would end up working with. But my
Okay.
goal is to become them. So, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm still open to working with all of them, but I'm not open to being like drowned out by them.
Hmm.
Okay.
I like that.
No.
That's fire. And we need that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's how it's been. Like the black creatives, the dopest ones. They go work for Marvel, work for DC, and that's dope. You know what I mean? But we need the peak of the pyramids too. You know what I mean? We need us to rival Godhood and Concrete and all these other dope black
Hmm.
creators to not just write for the characters they created. You know what I mean? Create our own thing.
Yeah.
I think the biggest that
Yeah.
we've had in that world was still probably like the Static Shock, the guys who created that whole Black Lightning roster. But they still went to DC, and it's dope because DC supports them. But I would prefer not to.
Yeah. I totally agree with your mindset and perspective because more of the community gets put on
Be
that.
more gatekeepers.
Yeah, for sure.
You know. Yeah.
It's and that same obstacle translates in almost every industry.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Absolutely.
So I know writers that are writing for movies normally create with a person in mind to play the character. I think that's sometimes how it works. As
Yeah.
you were creating Impound, did you have a particular, let's say, if you could get anyone to play the character, who would that person be that you'd like to play him?
I don't really have so I do have an answer and then I don't. As far as like a mainstream actor, man, black dude that fits the role, if he's mainstream, let's run it. I'm down. I'm trying to get this to the main. I'm not gonna be like resistant to nobody. But 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 what's crazy is if I had a picture perfect way of doing it, my director would be Deion Taylor or Ryan Coogler, and the reason for them is they're kind of like Sacramento native type people, so that just
Mhm.
to
Okay.
me makes a lot of sense. And then there's an actor named Keith Powers, and if you don't know Keith Powers, he was Dr. Dre's little brother on Straight Outta Compton. He was in Walking Dead, and he was in the New Edition movie. I always forget the character he played in New Edition, but Keith Powers is a Sacramento native that already kind of naturally looks like him. So I
I was about
think
to
it
say
would
that.
be,
I see. I see the look. I see the look. I was
yeah,
like, oh, okay.
that was unintentional, but I think that would be like my personal super dope way of doing it
Mhm.
because we don't have enough intertwined creative support. It would be nice to have a Sacramento based kind of director, Sacramento based writer, and a Sacramento based actor collaborating on our city's first superhero project. I just think that would be dope. But, if Michael B. Jordan wants to play Impound, Michael B. Jordan has got the role of Impound. And I'm not dumb at
I feel you.
yeah, but that would be like my own personal goal to have at least some adaptation of them. You know what I
All
mean?
right.
That would be dope to me.
Dope, 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 dope.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow up with one other thing, and then I'll let Dervin ask the question. So I know when 50 Cent was working on Life, the guy wanted to originally come out with a movie first, but 50 was like, no, you got to do a TV series, work on it, and then do the movie. Have you thought about maybe going an animated route first,
We're
or maybe a live action series and then doing the movie to continue build that buzz and attention?
I think that well, we're almost done with our first episode of an animated episode. So that's been
That's
in the
dope.
works. Yeah, that's been in the works now for a few months. So that's coming. Um, a lot of I would say doing the movie trailer. I followed the route of Bel Air, the new series on Peacock, because that's what the guy who, I don't know if you saw, basically there was a trailer about Bel Air in 2018 or something like that. And a guy put together a trailer, that was all he could afford to do, of if Will Smith was really got involved with gangsters in Philadelphia and a serious reason on why he moved to Bel Air, a non-comedy based version of The Fresh Prince. And that's what got this series started. So that was my thought, is following that formula. Because, I can shoot a short. Anybody can shoot a short. How many shorts have you honestly watched in your life? Most people, is probably less than 2. You know what I mean? Like, that's not really something that people have an attention span for. So, but everyone has watched thousands of trailers. Like, just, you'll do it. You know what I mean? You'll watch a trailer. So, with this, even if the movie isn't going to be this year or next year, I think doing a trailer was a bigger publicity attention grabber. So at the end of the day, people understand they're going to have to wait years to get a movie. But we're fully funded. We have the budget. It's still going to take us years to put it in people's hands, right? So this was a big, on top of actually trying to do it, also a publicity stunt and campaign as well. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, it got us a budget to be able to finish this animation and to be able to do more books and more brand building, with hopefully still getting to that goal sooner or later. You know what I mean? But yeah, absolutely. There's things we need to do first, but this was, I think it was time to just shake up the world with what could be, and hope, and we've gotten national attention for it. You know, we've gotten not anything serious, but 2 studios have reached out to me because of this trailer, and to be honest, that's what I was really hoping for. I wasn't really thinking with the $25K I was going to be able to shoot a movie. I was hoping a studio approached me and they took on the cost to shoot it for me. You know what I mean? So that was what I was really thinking, because that's how the Bel Air worked, and it worked. Mm-hmm. So, if anything, it put us on a bigger stage regardless.
Got it. Awesome, man.
And not to say it like that, like even when you think about it like this, I've been waiting for the next Spawn movie since the first Spawn movie. And here we are, like 26 years later, I'm still waiting. I didn't become less of a fan for it. I'm just going to wait until they do it.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I was just about to say something about shorts, because I remember a few years ago, Michael White did a short about Mortal Kombat and how they think Mortal Kombat should be made. And I watched that, and I thought this was a dope concept, not realizing that it was some fan-made short with some big with him as an actor.
Yeah.
But I loved him in Spawn too, so that's why it was just interesting.
Well, Spawn is coming now that Jamie Foxx is playing him.
Nah, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I gotta look that up then.
Yeah, they announced it last year. So it's finally coming since 94 or something like that. Yeah.
That's crazy. So, what's the next big project outside of the movie? I know the movie is what you're focused on, but what other stuff is on the docket list?
The next big thing. We'll have books in between, but the animation is the next big landmark. Impound 4, I think Impound 4 is going to go crazy, to be honest, because this is going to be the first one that he has a suit. Up to this journey, I've been showing the fully realized Impound, and no one knows how. You know what I mean? So I think that the 4th one is going to be an insane release. But that and the animation.
Got it.
If you could pick a superpower, right? You had an opportunity to choose if you could. What would that be?
The Force.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a lot you could do with that.
The Force is go crazy.
That's a wide spectrum.
I always say that too. People ask me that pretty often. And it's like, it's the force, man. I just, something about that. But what was messed up is I'd be a Sith, though. I'm not really Jedi. I'm always a fan of the
Gotcha.
Sith.
Is there
Alright.
any particular reason why?
I'm ready to, my bad.
Take your time, man.
I don't like true blue heroes. I hate it.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of any true blue hero. I don't like those type of characters.
Yeah.
Into like Mortal Kombat's universe. I'm into the people who are straddling the fence of good and evil. I don't like Jedi so good and holy and wholesome. You know what I mean? I just don't like that. I like
You
Feels
must
more
be a
real.
fan of Batman then.
I don't like Batman, but I'm a massive
Okay.
fan of Gotham.
Okay.
Batman villains are my favorite villains of all universes, but I do not like Batman, the character, him. I want him to lose in every movie, and it makes me mad when he wins. I want the Joker to prevail. I want Bane to prevail, and then, you know what I mean? It is what it is, but Batman, Superman, I can't think of one. I like Static Shock. I was say I can't really think of one DC hero that I genuinely like. I love all the villains.
Mm.
Like I said, my favorite heroes is Spawn, Hulk. You know what I mean? Like in DC, my favorite heroes would be like Watchmen characters. You know what I mean? So it's just I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
I understand now.
Yeah,
I rock the Watchmen heavy.
yeah, anti-hero. You know, I like Venom. You know what I mean? Like those type of characters are my cup of tea. Sub-Zero.
I'm not gonna lie, the dynamic that comes with characters like that, it does feel more real to me.
Yeah, it's like, come on, bro. Like, how many times are you gonna keep putting this person in jail for him to break out and terrorize the world? You know what I mean? Like, this dude needs to
I
die,
feel
bro. I just don't. I don't like that. You know what I mean? I like Punisher. You know, it's like there's no way you could just keep following this path of goodness all the time. It doesn't make sense to me. You know.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So one thing we try to ask all of our guests, right? You know, in whatever their respective field is, when they're making impact, when they're creating, you know, when they're trying to stay focused, like, what do you do to like block out the noise, right? Sever from distractions, you know, shut out hate. Like, what's your method there?
So when it comes to my writing process, I don't do anything. If I'm not ready to write, I'm not going to. You know, yeah, I just have to be in that mood. I have to be in that creative space, and I don't know when it's going to come, and I don't know how to turn it off or on. You know what I mean? I'm either ready to do it, and I notice it. I'm like, man, I can write tonight, and I sit down. I'm like, let's get it. You know, and then any other time I try to force it out, it doesn't. Since I don't do it for I'm selfish with it, I guess. I'm not gonna do it for the public's wanting me to do it. I'm gonna do it when I can. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that makes it more. That makes it better. It makes it, you know, people love it more. Um, and since I always did it on my own time and my own pace with my own creativity, it just didn't change when it turned into a business. I'm still just like that. You know what I'm saying? So the fortunate thing was I spent so much time brainstorming before I actually did an impound book that I have most of it already. You know what I'm saying? So I just really have to nitpick little things, pivot. But like I spent 2.5 years just forming the universe randomly on my day to day, taking notes before I actually put out a book. You know, so I just understand it really well at this point. It's very simple for me, but I don't force any of the writing. I don't have it.
Okay.
As far as
And
like the
I
hate,
guess
I
we'll,
just don't care. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
always one
hate
of
comes
those
when
who
you're
can't
doing
please
something well,
everyone.
though.
Ex-
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
and then it's like, you know, it sucks sometimes, but that's just how it has to be. My favorite writer is George R. R. Martin, the writer of Game of Thrones,
mhm.
and he's still not done with the last book. Like the show ended, 4 years ago, and it ended horribly because he didn't finish the last book on time, and now he's still not done. He just and when they're like, "Why haven't you finished it?" He's like, "Because I ain't got it yet. Like I'm not like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah,
but he has the best selling everything because he did
yeah,
it right, 100%. He didn't let anyone, you know what I mean, dictate
Yeah,
it.
for
They gave him a
sure.
10-year head start to finish his last book, and he still didn't finish it.
And the people probably hating the most on that last season will be the first in line to get that new book.
No, because well, he has the benefit of the doubt because everyone knows he had nothing to do with writing that last season. Everyone is
Yeah.
aware of that. So
Hmm.
that helped him actually because now everyone has to know how he would have ended it. That last book of Game of Thrones is going to be the highest selling book to ever come out in world history. Watch, like it's gonna go crazy. You know what I mean?
I
Because
can imagine, man.
they have to know, like, bro, that was wrong. And he was like, I wouldn't have ended it like that. So he said that, they're like, man, end it so
We
that
can't
we know
wait.
how you ended it.
But you know what's gonna be funny? HBO is probably gonna redo that last season based on this book, just the fact because people are gonna want to see it visually, or they're gonna
Actually,
restart from the beginning with a new cast of people and just rake in even more money.
they absolutely
Reboot
will.
it years later.
Yeah,
Definitely.
reboot it years later.
Coming out with the next series that's in the Game of Thrones world this year, like at the end of the year.
Yeah, like a prequel, I believe.
I
Yeah,
think it got canceled. It got canceled. I did some research. One of our guests said it got canceled, and I
Really?
did some research. After spending $40 million, it got canceled.
that can't be. I'll be so mad. Hold on, I'm looking on Google right now. What is it
Oh
called?
shit.
House of the Dragon?
Yeah, HBO canceled Game of Thrones prequel.
Yes, sir. After forty
Yeah.
million
That's a
dollars, how that make
30
sense?
million, 30 million pilot.
Why though?
They felt it wasn't living up to what was done before. So they didn't hit the mark. So they probably fucked up like the last season. And they were like, yeah, we probably can't do this. So let's take a chill on this
Yeah,
uh until the main author wants to join this project and maybe we'll get something good.
that's crazy.
Bro, a $30 million fuck up is crazy.
Like, is it that bad? Like, it's like. Here's the thing. There's no way it's gonna be good as Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? I'm going into it knowing it's not gonna be that good. Is it that bad though? You know what I mean? Like,
I guess,
if
I guess, I
70% of
guess.
Game of Thrones is still a good series.
True, true. I don't know,
That's
man.
crazy to me.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a pilot that got shelved, but House of Dragon is still dropping.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm reading here. It looks like they had a prequel pilot that they were filming and they decided to just not rock with it. But they do plan to still premiere House of Dragon in 2022.
Okay, yeah, no, that's what I see too. Yeah, yeah. Something good can't. Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm not even gonna
Okay.
Scared
lie.
me for a sec, Tony.
Even 30 million, even 30 million, that didn't sound like enough money too. As weird as that sounds. Because Game of Thrones, the last two seasons was 10 million an episode.
Yeah, and I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys know, but
Yeah,
the Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series, like per episode, like amount was ridiculous too.
yeah,
The series that they like, I was like,
and they
wow, so
couldn't,
much
you know,
money
they
just for
spent
this episode.
less. They couldn't go backwards. So
Yeah,
that
makes
makes more
sense. Makes
sense.
sense.
It was probably 30 million on just a prequel thing. Because I'm like, bro, that's crazy.
Mhm.
If your life is good, you can just cancel $30 million, man.
Oh man. But we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's definitely been a pleasure. Wish you the best of luck with the movie and getting picked up. How can our audience follow you, get updated on what's going on in your world? Like how can they keep in touch?
Impound Comics on everything. All social platforms, impoundcomics.com. My personal is Trace the Goat. That's my personal at. And yeah, our Instagram and our Twitter is probably the most active.
Awesome, awesome. All right, man. Thank you so much for today, man. We greatly appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys, man. Take care, brother. Have a good one.